The SlideSnap Pro is a scanner used exclusively with slides mounted in 2x2-inch frames, such as 35mm slides popular in the last half of the 20th century. Although the Family History Center's flatbed scanners can also be used for 35mm slides, in most cases the SlideSnap Pro is the preferred device for this purpose. The reasons for this are its speed, ease of use, and the quality of scanned images. However, there are circumstances that may warrant use of a flatbed scanner for slides instead of SlideSnap. These include 1. Slides whose frames are bent or warped. This is not uncommon in old slides, leading to jamming in the SlideSnap's mechanism. Flatbed scanners do not have such jamming issues, although severely bent frames might result in areas of the film being slightly out of focus. 2. If your photos are not mounted in frames, but exist as strips of film like employed with 35mm negatives, flatbed scanners must be used instead of SlideSnap. 3. Likewise, if your slides are mounted in frames other than the common 2x2-inch size, a flatbed scanner is your only option. However, note that the SlideSnap can accommodate film sizes smaller than 35mm as long as they are mounted in 2x2-inch frames. 4. If your slides are mounted in glass frames, the overall thickness might be too much for reliable use in SlideSnap's Kodak carousel holder or stack loader. Testing such slides with SlideSnap may be necessary to learn whether or not you must revert to a flatbed scanner instead. But as stated previously, SlideSnap will be the preferred device for scanning 35mm slides if these exceptions do not apply. SlideSnap Pro consists of a vintage Kodak carousel slide projector repurposed for use as a film scanner instead of a projector. It does this by means of a dedicated Nikon digital camera pointed directly at the slide inserted into the machine. For this reason, the slide projector's lens has been removed entirely, so all optics reside solely within the camera's macro lens. Note that the critical alignment of the camera with respect to the projector has been performed already, so under no circumstances should users attempt to make any adjustments to the camera, its lens, or any of the camera's settings. In fact, with one exception mentioned later, these components should not even be touched by users, since all patron interactions will be with the projector itself and its slide holders. If you suspect that an alignment problem exists, please alert a member of the library staff who will contact the technical specialist for this device. Although the projector and camera each have individual power switches, they are normally left in the on position and power is switched on and off to both devices simultaneously through this single switch on the power cord. Before describing the capture of slide images by the computer software, we must first discuss how slides are loaded into the projector trays. There are two types of slide trays available at the library. 1. The circular Kodak carousel trays that hold up to 80 slides each, or 2. The Kodak stack loader that keeps all slides together in a stack. The only other type of tray that is compatible with the projector is Kodak's 140 count carousel tray, although slides have somewhat greater tendency to jam in this higher capacity tray, so the library doesn't keep one on hand. But if users already have their slides loaded into their own 80 count or 140 count Kodak trays, they should be able to use those trays directly. Note that all other types of trays, like the Sawyer vertically positioned circular trays, are incompatible with this equipment. When loading slides into the carousel, they are oriented differently than the orientation used when the slides were projected on a movie screen through the now removed projector lens. These differences fall into two categories. 1. For scanning, all slides are placed in the carousel horizontally, that is, landscape mode, even if the photo was taken vertically, portrait mode. If your carousel has slides that have been placed in portrait orientation, this must be changed before scanning. 2. All slides for scanning are loaded with the top of the photo facing the ceiling and the glossy side of the film facing the front of the projector, that is, facing the camera. This means that the emulsion or dull side of the film faces away from you, resulting in an image that appears proper both top to bottom and left to right when you load it in the manner shown here. Of course, the tops of photos taken in portrait orientation should always point sideways rather than towards the ceiling. For slides previously loaded for projection, This change can be made by removing each slide from the carousel and flipping it upside down and placing it back into the carousel as shown here. Note that unlike the prior issue of placing portrait mode photos horizontally in the carousel, changes of this type can be done digitally with software included on the PC. In fact, users owning carousels with slides loaded for projection will find it easier to perform software reorientation of their batch of slides after scanning than to reorient slides one at a time in the carousel, as I have just shown. However, this software, which will be demonstrated later, cannot be used to undo the error of the first category, that is, scanning slides that were not placed horizontally in the carousel. To repeat an earlier caution, it is advisable to examine a few slides for warped frames before starting to use a carousel tray with the SlideSnap Pro. Once the slides are loaded into the carousel, it is placed straight down on top of the projector with slot number 0, which cannot hold a slide, pointing towards the arrow at the left. A gentle downward push should let it snap into place. If you experience any difficulty, please consult a staff member. Note that the carousel cannot be removed or placed onto the projector unless the arrow points to slot 0. To quickly rotate the carousel to this position from any other rotation position, push this white button on the left, which will immediately pop up any slide that may be within the projector and allow you to rotate the carousel to the position 0. From that position, the carousel can be removed from the projector. Users without their own carousels loaded with slides may find the Kodak stack loader, shown here, easier to use than the carousel. Placing the stack loader directly onto the projector lets it snap into place easily. Then an entire stack of slides may be placed into the tray by pulling back this plastic part seen here. The scanning procedure which follows proceeds exactly the same whether slides are loaded into carousels or trays, with the one exception being that the tray does not allow you to back up to the previous slide shown as you can do with slides in carousels. But since slide scanning is usually a one-way trip through your slides, this is not a significant hindrance. In order to scan slides with the carousel or stack loader mounted on the projector, make sure that the switch on the cord that powers both the camera and projector is on and the computer is booted up. Occasionally, the Nikon camera powers up with an error message on its rear screen, instructing users to hit the camera's shutter button to clear the error. If you are not comfortable with this, ask the staff to do so. This is the only time patrons or staff should ever touch the camera. The scanning software is called Smart Shooter, which entirely by coincidence has two words starting with the letter S, just like the hardware named SlideSnap. But these products are from different companies, although the SlideSnap manufacturer recommends Smart Shooter software with its scanner. Once the Smart Shooter application is launched by double-clicking the shortcut icon on the desktop, the software should immediately recognize the Nikon camera if it has already been turned on. Users will see a formidable-looking set of parameters in the window, but most of them should not be changed by users, who need to understand only a few aspects of this window. In order to preview on the computer screen the slide inside the projector, users must enable Live View by hitting this small checkbox. If the tray has just been placed on the projector, no slide has yet dropped into place for viewing by the camera, which is why this screen is initially dark. However, by advancing the projector one step ahead from the initial position at 0 to the first slide at position 1, the image of the slide is immediately seen in the preview window. Controls on the front of the projector cause it to advance to the next slide or revert to the previous slide. Recall that reverting to the previous slide only works with the carousel tray, not with the stack loader. Directly above the Live View checkbox is a rectangular button called Autofocus. Hitting that button causes the camera to automatically adjust its focus for best clarity of the slide. Because the camera has often been focused properly with a previous set of slides, the autofocus button has negligible effect in such circumstances. But to vividly illustrate its operation, I now manually adjust the camera's lens to purposely misfocus the slide, causing noticeable blurring of the image. But hitting the autofocus again shows the rapid adjustment the camera makes to bring the image sharp again. Having automatically adjusted the focus, the camera is ready to capture the image and send the file immediately to the computer, which is initiated by hitting the Shoot button. Notice that after the image has been received by the computer, a thumbnail of it is added to the bottom row of thumbnails for all images captured since the Smart Shooter program was launched. If you want to see where this and other slide image files are located on the computer's hard drive, just right-click any thumbnail to select Show in Folder. If I wish to examine each slide before deciding to shoot it, in other words, record the image, proceed to press the right front button on the projector to advance to the next slide and then hit Shoot. The number of the image file will automatically increase by 1 with each shot. If slides in your sequence are from the same batch, it is likely that the focus will be consistent between slides. However, if slide types differ within the batch, or if you just want to be extra cautious, you may choose to hit the autofocus button each time a new slide appears before hitting Shoot. A simpler alternative to manually advancing and shooting each slide in your tray is to initiate this process automatically for all slides. After shooting the first slide or two, ensuring that autofocus is good, simply press the middle button instead of advancing the slide one step with the button to its right. This will initiate the sequence of advance and shoot for every slide in the tray until it reaches a blank position, that is, a slot without a slide. If your carousel is full, that first empty slot will be position 0 where you started. One very important step that you must take prior to pressing the middle button is to disable Live View on the Smart Shooter software by clicking the checkbox if it is enabled. If you fail to do this, no images will be captured by the camera and computer, even though all slides in the tray automatically advance when the middle button on the projector is pressed. I will demonstrate this with a short batch of 10 slides for brevity. Having completed the scans, the white button is pressed to allow rotation of the carousel to position 0, which allows removal of the tray. Notice that thumbnails for all captured images appear at the bottom of the Smart Shooter window. When you are finished scanning all slides for the day, open the window on the PC with all your image files and move them to your USB stick or external hard drive plugged into the left side of the computer. Notice that if you merely drag files with your left mouse button, the selected files will be copied rather than moved. Thus, after copying, you should delete your files from the hard drive of the PC. However, if you drag files with your right mouse button instead of the left button, you have the option of moving the files rather than copying them. This saves you the step of deleting your files from the PC, since moving files does not leave copies behind. This concludes the basic instructions for scanning slides from the SlideSnap Pro into image files on the PC via its Smart Shooter application. If you are interested in more details and hints for scanning slides, including file types and settings, file numbering options, organizational helps, digitally rotating or flipping slides in software, etc., you may choose to watch the second video on this subject, which will start automatically at the conclusion of this video. Or if you wish to watch the second part later, you may open that video directly from its desktop icon without needing to watch part 1 again.